I believe modern superheroes do a similar thing, and that they can inform us about this modern world we live in with its modern challenges, even even without, let's say, some sort of it's more emotional, because now we find ourselves in these emotional landscapes that we can't navigate. And I think superheroes serve as a great tool to understanding our psyches and understanding, just how we live in the world. And I think that they for sure share and owe a debt of gratitude to their mythic forefathers that have basically set them on a pedestal, frankly, that we can take down now and play with and use in our own lives. So that's really for sure how it is.
Man of Steel and Batman v Superman both have very epic scopes in terms of world building, stakes, and overall scale. Character-wise, however, they take a very grounded approach, with the idea of a superpowered man living amongst humans and people's general reaction to it. Zack Snyder's Justice League, however, takes a more mythological and even Tolkien approach, with each character mirroring a Greek god or symbolic figure. Each hero is first shown standing at a tall or elevated place, their proverbial pedestal as it were. In fact, prior to any heroic acts they achieve, they are seen stepping onto a higher place or rising up in some way. Throughout the film, they are seen constantly falling or failing, thus coming off their pedestals down to our level. Eventually, they rise back up together and stand united on the same pedestal as one symbol. When we first see Superman, it's at his death at the hands of Doomsday. We encircle them as they are frozen in time, as it were, almost appearing statuesque, the way they are still, which gives us an idea of how these heroes will be portrayed throughout the film. Superman, for obvious reasons, represents Jesus, the Messiah, the way his arms are outstretched and impaled by Doomsday, much like Jesus on the cross when a soldier impaled him with a spear to make sure he was dead. He also gives out a reverberating scream which is sent out through the land, much like in Luke 23:46, and when Jesus cried with a loud voice, he said, "Father, into thy hands I commend my spirit," and having said thus, gave up the ghost. When Superman is revived, he stands at his own memoriam. The rest of the team arrives and they see him stand higher above them, standing on his symbolic pedestal. When Cyborg accidentally destroys a part of it, Clark obviously takes it personally and the fight between them ensues. During the fight, Superman constantly heightens himself above all of them, a technique Zack Snyder used in BVS when he demonstrated the powerful perspective versus the powerless. In this case, Superman sees himself as more powerful than them and essentially creates his own dominant pedestal over them, asserting his own superiority. When he tries to kill Batman, this is a complete reversal of the Martha moment in BVS, where Batman had become the worst version of himself and had Superman's life in his hands. Now the tables are turned, and Clark is now his worst version, and once again, it's the love of his life that saves him, now from himself. He floats back down from his dominant pedestal and finally touches the earth. It could be possible that, since Superman was treated poorly by humanity in the first two movies, he's deluded with the idea that they are now here to do away with him again, so he attacks them. But it's the woman he loves that grounds him. When Superman walks through the scout ship, he hears the voices of his two fathers lifting him up, to the point where he ascends above Earth and makes the cross symbol once again, putting him on the heroic pedestal that he was meant to be on. When we first see Bruce Wayne, he stands on a high cliff above a small village. Even as his civilian self, he stands on a pedestal above others, having done the near impossible task of climbing a tall mountain in the blistering cold. In fact, a lot of times when we see Bruce, he is either in a high place or standing above others, doing what he does best. When we first see him as Batman, he stands atop a gargoyle. Some have said that he is standing on top of the Angel of Death or the Grim Reaper. I rather think he closely resembles Michael the Archangel in the famous image of him defeating Lucifer. When he fights the parademons, he stands at a high place and even looks down on a fallen one after defeating it. He also brings in the Nightcrawler, an extension of his armor as it were, and defeats more parademons, rising up to help Diana. But Steppenwolf starts to bust and break it, symbolic of his armor starting to crack. The moment where he truly falls off is when he's faced with Superman, the one person he wanted to revive and redeem himself with. He even removes a gauntlet after Superman breaks it, showing his armor starting to come off. As they all leave to go perform their heroic jobs, he and the rest of them are lifted up towards a shining light. When he helps Diana, he stands at a higher place using the alien turret gun. But when he fails to save Barry in time from being shot, the unity is complete and he jumps down from his high point. By the end, after defeating Steppenwolf, Superman lifts him back up onto their pedestal, symbolic of his redemption with Clark, and stands ascended once again. When we first see Wonder Woman, it's at the bank in London. She stands on top of a famous statue of Themis, the Greek goddess. In Roman myth, she's known as Justitia, the Lady of Justice. When Diana interrogates one of the terrorists, she stands at a high place and holds him below herself. After she saves the hostages, she comforts a scared girl who looks up to her, putting her on a heroic pedestal once again. When we see her as her civilian self, she is seen at a tall place above her co-workers, cleaning a statue of Aphrodite, or Venus in Roman myth, the goddess of love and beauty. When she fights with Steppenwolf, she lifts herself up onto a high platform. She gets knocked down several times until she leaps off to retrieve her sword and falls down to the ground, but she rises back up to defeat more parademons to save Barry. When she fights with Superman, she tries to reach out to him by appealing to his true identity. She even tries to use her strongest power against him, but fails, and she gets knocked into the ground. When he flies off with Lois, she stands looking up at him, having been bested and fallen off her pedestal. During the last fight with Steppenwolf, she stands on the same high platform. That is to say, she stands on his pedestal with him. She breaks it and brings herself down with him. Steppenwolf baits her with lies about the death of her people, fueling her rage, showing not only how much she misses her home, but that she worries if she'll ever see it again. She gets beaten and even buried with Aquaman. After the unity is broken, she rises once again and decapitates Steppenwolf. By the end, after standing with the rest upon their victory, she stands high looking into the horizon, much like the statue of a goddess, and contemplates returning to her people. The first time we see Aquaman in his heroic state, he stands atop a capsized boat, saving a sailor from a violent storm. When he walks amongst the civilians, he stands taller than them, and light and wind envelop him when he opens the door, making him appear godlike to them. When he swims below the surface, he revisits a statue of King Atlan, only to be greeted by his old mentor Vulko, who stands below him. demonstrating how Vulko puts him on a pedestal, seeing him as a righteous leader, something that Arthur himself rejects. Arthur, for obvious reasons, represents Poseidon, the god of the seas, who was known to be very moody and bad-tempered. In the movie, Arthur hides behind this persona of being very standoffish and non-caring, even though he goes out of his way to be a hero for others. The first time he falls off is when he first fights Steppenwolf. He saves Mera and the glow from the axe shines upon him, making him look majestic to her. But Steppenwolf punches him into a cement pillar and he slowly drifts down. After Mera convinces him to retrieve the mother box, he rises back up again. The next time he falls is during the end of the tunnel scene. He first appears almost majestically inside the streaming water. He rides on top of it, and then when he lands, he tries to block the water to protect the others, but he fails and the water crashes over him. During the parademon fight, he rises up to fight more parademons but begins to fall again. However, Cyborg catches him and keeps him in the air. This is the moment where he truly learns to rely on others. He falls to the ground on top of a defeated parademon and comes out tall and triumphant. By the end, when he stands with the others atop their heroic pedestal, he has truly learned that he needs to reconnect with others, and he sets out to see his own father. Cyborg is a character who feels like he has fallen off any pedestal he was on. When we first see him as Victor Stone, he scores the big touchdown that wins the game, and we see him from a low angle, presented as a hero in some way. We even see light shining on him, making him appear godlike already. He looks up in the stands to find his parents, whom he views on a pedestal in a way, only to find his mother alone next to an empty chair. When Cyborg is first created, his position closely resembles Vitruvian Man by Da Vinci. This is not just a reference to the first New 52 Cyborg comic issue, but also a common interpretation of the drawing is that it represents the connection between the human body and the universe. When he is experimenting with his abilities, he rises up to a higher level and helps out a poor waitress in need. When he fights with Superman, he does get knocked down several times. However, the moment where he truly falls off is when he watches his father die. Steppenwolf knocks him away and he tumbles to the floor. Towards the end, when he falls off Steppenwolf's pedestal, he rises back up to connect with the Unity. He finally accepts who he really is and tears it apart with the help of Superman. Then finally stands on his new pedestal with his new friends. The first time we see Barry Allen, he is applying for another job and runs into Iris West. When he saves her from a violent crash, he stands above her and she sees him on a heroic pedestal now. Barry is someone who is already on a pedestal and doesn't even know it. He keeps bringing himself down to our level and doesn't realize his full potential because he wants to impress and acquit his father. When he first meets Bruce Wayne, his suit stands on a high platform like a statue on its own pedestal. During the first fight with Steppenwolf, he helps save all the hostages by moving away all the rubble from above them. When he does, we see their view of him like a god saving them. Afterwards, however, when he's not looking ahead, he loses his way and he starts to fall and gets seriously injured. During the fight with Superman, he gets knocked down and looks up at him from his fallen state. He even tries to collide with him, but once again doesn't look ahead and crashes into the ground, taking Aquaman with him. The moment where he truly falls off is during the big ending fight. We see him run in circles around the area, building up the charge for Cyborg. This represents the conflict his father was telling him about, how he's running in circles and not going anywhere with his life. He gets shot and tumbles to the ground. The moment he truly becomes his best self is when he saves the whole team. He sees a goal he has to reach and he runs for it. He breaks his own rule of running faster than the speed of light. When he runs, he closely resembles Hermes, or Mercury, the god of speed, who is known to have wings on his shoes and helmet. Afterwards, he and his newfound friends rise up to their own pedestal and stand together. Later on, he visits his father one more time, only this time he no longer sits at the same level with him, but stands above him, now feeling exalted, and shows him the progress he's made with building a new life for himself. Steppenwolf is an example of a god or symbol that has already fallen off his pedestal and is trying to rise back up to it. Since he has a complicated relationship with his nephew Darkseid, he is trying his best to impress him and, as he says it, make him see his worth again. When the Justice League rise up, it is because they are being heroes for other people. But when Steppenwolf rises up, it's because he has accomplished something for himself. Whenever he retrieves a mother box, he ascends through a boom tube back onto the high platform inside the power plant he resides. But whenever he speaks to Desaad or Darkseid, he looks up to them on the object to which they manifest, as if they were statues on a pedestal themselves. When he does, his armor peels back, revealing his true self, surrendering and giving himself fully to them. When we first see Darkseid, it's during the battle with the old gods. He descends from his ship down to Earth, and we see him from a low angle, tall and dominant. The ships behind him almost appear like wings, and he bears a resemblance to the statue of Thanatos, the Greek god of death. Towards the end, they fight Steppenwolf on his high platform, but Wonder Woman breaks it, making him fall. He tries to rise back up, but Diana and Arthur restrain him and bring him back down again. After he defeats them and rises back up, he tries to kill Cyborg and accomplish his mission of sinking the Unity, but the symbol of hope now stands between him and his mission. He disarms him, removes a part of his head, and then punches him to the point where his armor starts to crack and break off. After the Unity is broken, Arthur, Clark, and Diana finish him off, and he no longer rises through the boom tube, but falls and lands at the feet of Darkseid, leading to the first ever meeting of Darkseid and the new protectors of the Earth, the new gods, the one and only Justice League.